The whole is Roman overrated, I think, is subjective. I mean, if you're a Roman hater, the answer to that is yes. If you're a Roman fan, the answer to that is no. If you're somewhere in the middle, then you're going to have maybe a bit more of a complex reaction to it. I'm actually in the middle. I wouldn't class myself as like a big Roman fan. I wouldn't call myself a Roman hater either. Like, I think he has been brilliant for the company. I think that he's had a brilliant career. I think he's been absolutely a positive for WWE. But equally, yeah, you know, the whole big dog thing, I didn't kind of feel. I think that, like, you know, when WWE were trying to push him instead of Daniel Bryan, I found that quite frustrating. Obviously, 2019 was a pretty bad year. And, like, a lot of the stuff Roman was doing with the dog food and some of that stuff was like, you know, there's moments that I'm like, I'm just not feeling this. I mean, the Bloodline stuff was really good. The Bloodline stuff was really good. You did still have people complaining about the amount of outside interference and that Roman can't do it on his own. And that's actually kind of leaning into where Roman is now, where Roman is trying to do it on his own, right? I mean, he got the win over CM Punk at WrestleMania. He got the win against Seth at SummerSlam. Don't believe there was any outside interference in those. Don't think there was in one of the Jacob matches as well. So, you know, I think Roman is trying to kind of right that slight wrong. But, you know, there's just a couple of bits there where, yeah, I can understand some of the criticism against Roman. But equally, look at the year he's having. 5-star match at WrestleMania, 4.75 at SummerSlam. Those are Meltzer scores, but, I mean, obviously it's a reflection of how the community feels as well. I mean, Meltzer's pretty harsh when it comes to scoring WWE matches. So if he's going to be that positive, you know that it was something WWE fans will have enjoyed. So is he overrated? I think it's very subjective. I always struggle with overrated, underrated, because it largely comes down to personal opinion. It comes down to your personal opinion. And that's hard, isn't it? It's not factual. So it's something that you will have to answer. Could someone else be as successful? I would say, again, it's a mixed answer because, yes, someone else could have been as successful as Roman because Roman's not the only big star we've ever had. You know, if we were having John Cena at this time, then I can't give you an argument why a prime John Cena would have failed at this point. I mean, John Cena's loved. I think he would be loved now. So I feel like Roman's not the only big star we've ever had. So, yes, I do think there would be others. I mean, if we're looking at the current roster and saying it has to be someone from the current roster, that gets a little trickier. I mean, obviously, there would have been more opportunity for Drew. There probably would have been more big matches for the likes of Brock. I'm sure that we would have got a bit more out of AJ Styles. So, you know, there's definitely people that would have benefited if Roman wasn't around. And most notably, that one person that would have benefited the most probably would have been Seth. Seth would have benefited. I'm not sure I could make an argument that Seth would have been as successful as Roman if he was in that position. But Roman definitely isn't the only person that could have succeeded, like it was just him. But I think he was the right person at the right time. And if we look back at history, when Hulkamania ended, we really struggled. You know, we tried Lex Luger, we tried Bret Hart, we tried Shawn Michaels, we tried Undertaker, we tried a few different people. Undertaker's amazing in the role that he had, which is just being that aura. You know, you kind of want Undertaker on a card along with a champion, really, because people love Undertaker. And if he's got the belt and he's at the top of the card, you're sort of putting all your eggs in one basket to a degree. Do you know what I mean? Like, Undertaker is just such a big presence. He's kind of larger than the belt in many ways, that if you actually put him in the main events, like, I don't know, it just felt better when he was separate and you had your champion and you had Undertaker and you had two things on the card. And of course, your mid-card titles as well, your tag titles and everything. And then you could fill your card out, right? So I feel like we tried Undertaker, and Undertaker might have worked, but it was just always better when he was the attraction, you know? It just didn't work as well, him being champion, I never found. I don't know that you can really look back and find like great Undertaker championship runs with the titles. And people are often surprised that he didn't have more runs with the belts. But again, he didn't need them. He had the streak. I mean, the streak was bigger than the championship. There was many years at WrestleMania where I was more excited about the Undertaker streak match than I was anything else. Which, I mean, more than the championship, more than whoever was main eventing, I cared about the Undertaker. And I was not alone. That was normal, that people cared about the Undertaker's match and the streak, and would this be the year that it would end? Because you get championship matches all the time. The WrestleMania streak was once a year, and it was special. So that kind of, you know, sums up the Undertaker character. It was an attraction. It was special. So we struggled to replace Hogan. And, you know, we've seen it as well where when Bruno stopped being champion, we struggled to replace Bruno. We went with Pedro Morales and it wasn't as successful. So I think replacing Roman is going to be very difficult. And we could be going through a period where it's going to be a little bit bumpy. I think Ober's interesting. Ober feels like he could be that next big face for the company. Doesn't mean it's going to quite work out that way, though, because who knows what's going to happen? You know, I don't know. You know, Brock Lesnar kind of felt that way when he came along, as we were like moving out of the Attitude Era. You know, he was known as the next big thing. And of course, you know, he'd end up leaving after a couple of years and he'd go off to do UFC. And I don't know. Who can say what's going to happen with Ober? Who's going to say, you know, maybe Hollywood grabs Ober and we don't get him as much as what we would like to get him. And perhaps he becomes more of an attraction like Undertaker or like Brock. You know, he kind of is around, but he's not around all the time. And so we sort of need another face of the company whilst he's not around, you know? So, yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I think the is he overrated is always hard to answer. That's subjective. That comes down to personal opinion. When it comes down to could someone else have done the role, answer yes. I think finding that person on the roster throughout the late 2010s going into 2020s would have been a little bit tricky, but I think you would have tried a few different people. You would have found someone. Seth being the most likely, Brock being the most likely, you know, Drew would have had a lot more opportunity as well. You know, you can see the certain names that were there at the time. AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan might have got used a little bit more. Maybe we would have done a bit more with Braun Strowman. Perhaps Bray Wyatt would have had more of an opportunity as well if Roman wasn't around. So I think it would have given all of those an opportunity. Someone would have risen up. Someone would have got that run. But no, I mean, look, we had Roman and we had Bloodline and it's been a big success. And he will define this era. Undeniable. Just like how Cena defined his era. Stone Cold Rock defined theirs. Hogan defined his, Bruno defined his, Roman defines this era. So, I don't know. I don't really engage in overrated, underrated, all that sort of stuff. I think you'll find people with opinions on both of those sides. But I'm more interested, I suppose, in what do we do after Roman. My mind's kind of going after Roman. It might be a bit early to be saying that, but I don't know. I feel like he's pretty much done a lot of what he can do. I think the only thing Roman's missing now is big matches, seriously big matches. You know, his match with Ober could be a real defining match in Roman's career. If he does get the match with The Rock, that could be a seriously defining match in Roman's career. I think you could make an argument. He's had a couple this year, CM Punk and Seth. Both of those historically might be looked back on as being really important matches in Roman's career. Because, you know, they're big wins for Roman, big singles wins. You know, he's beaten Punk, he's beaten Seth. They're good wins to have on the resume. And he's done it clean as well. And he's done it on big stages as well. I mean, could you imagine if next year he adds a win over The Rock and then a match with Oba to his record at WrestleMania and SummerSlam next year? I mean, that's the only thing that I think he just needs to keep adding. He doesn't need to really be there week in, week out. I don't think him being on Raw and SmackDown every week is adding to his resume. I don't think he really needs more championship reigns, although he can have them as he tries to get to, as many as possible. But to be honest, I think for me, it's more about those big matches. So, yeah, that's kind of the vibe, the feeling on Roman.